Hey, all Alabama Wrestling Forum fans. I'm Jackson Bass here with the first edition of MATtalks with Pablo. I'm here with my buddy Levi Miller, who is a current WRA athlete at Western Reserve Academy. How you doing today, Levi?
I'm doing good.
So obviously, it's been a crazy year for just about everybody. We've had so many things happen with this COVID year. But I think some of the big things we should talk about is one, how deep that 5-6A tournament was. I mean, I think 120 was a prime example. I remember looking at that, and like the number 6 guy was Parker Dodd, who was a returning state finalist. And then you had people all on that, Isaiah Powell, all these kinds of people. It's insane.
Yeah, I think just looking straight at those brackets right away, that 132 bracket, Deese he's a two-time state champ, and having him that low of a seed was just bound to have some upsets coming. And those brackets were just had some really good depth. Just combining those two divisions added so much talent into the area.
I definitely agree. And you just brought up a great example. Jacob Deese, a two-time Alabama state champ, seeded 10th. And I know that in heavyweight they had Damian Lowry, who was the 14th seed, who made it all the way to the finals before falling to Darling Daring. That's the seeding. The problem with the seeding this year, it was all based on stuff last year. Both of those athletes, Damian and Deese, they both got injured prior to the state tournament, although they had stellar seasons. Well, Deese got hurt in the very first tournament, and I know my buddy Fisher over at Spain Park was like, "Oh my gosh, somewhere on Track Wrestling it says I beat Jacob Deese," and we all laughed about it. But no, and then I know Damian had a stellar season up until he hurt his shoulder, but that was one of the bones to pick I had with the tournament was the seating just didn't really work together.
And a lot of that bad seeding just led to bad matchups. I mean, some of those semifinals looked so jarring, just the way that they were ending up with, like, you had two kids who were both state finalists from the year before meeting in the semis, and there was some really bad matchups coming out of the way that they did such a poor job seeding it.
And I agree, but that also accounts the depth of the tournament. 152. I was recently interviewing Chase Hicks, and I was talking to him, and I'm like, dude, you look at that bracket. The top 3 at that weight were Gray Ortiz, Chase Hicks, and Gabe Warren, who we said before are all returning state champs. That was just absolutely insane.
And Xander McWilliams, also returning state champ, who was in that bracket. There was just some of those brackets were just deeper than I think state tournaments seen in a long time.
Definitely. And although we could talk forever just about the 5-6A state tournament, there's a lot of stuff going on now currently. One of which is that Saraland near Mobile just got a wrestling team. And the craziest thing is who they have as their coach.
Coaching searches have been a major headline recently. There's been a lot of coaching mix-ups, and I'm always excited to see a new coach coming into the state.
Well, you know who's coaching Saraland is Coach Jordan Countryman. Yeah, insane. The coach at the University of Cumberland's for a couple years. He was the Mid-South champ over there. I mean, I've talked to him prior. He's like, I took a risk when I came to there to be the assistant graduate, and it paid off. And then he was the head coach there for a long time. And it was a little, I'm not in the loop over at Cumberland's, but I know I was a little shocked to see that he resigned. And then I'm on Twitter actually a few minutes before here, and I'm looking, I'm like, Saraland just got a team. And then I see Coach Countryman commenting on it, like, hey, guys, super excited. And I'm like, oh, that's insane.
That's crazy. Countryman, a big guy, he picked up a lot of Bama kids to bring up to University of the Cumberlands in Kentucky with him. But yeah, that's a big deal. That's a really good coach, especially for a new program, to really help build something and help build more wrestling in Southern Alabama. Because I feel like South Alabama it doesn't quite have the same culture that they have in more like Birmingham area, and then in like Huntsville. Those areas I feel like just have more wrestling culture, and I feel like it's good for the South to be getting some of those high-level coachings that are going to bring in more talent.
I know it's absolutely insane to see what some of these coaches are able to bring in. Mobile County and Baldwin County together didn't start a giant wrestling following to probably 6 years ago when Foley and Fairhope joined the South section in 7A for the first time. And it's just taken off since then. Baldwin County has been a giant hotspot, including for girls wrestling. A lot of times when you get few people who are not on the same level, it's kind of hard to coach girls who haven't been doing it the whole time, whereas guys who have been doing it the whole time. But at Baldwin County, nobody in the area had been able to wrestle. So bringing in girls and guys at the same time, it was a learning curve that everybody was going through together.
Yeah. A lot of those girls programs that have been coming up recently have also been really good to just help develop wrestling in Alabama. Because, I mean, if you have multiple genders being able to get into it, you obviously have more competitors, which leads to bigger tournaments, more interest in the sport, and just more overall growth. And I think that bringing in all these new programs and bringing in these new Southern programs is really good to help grow just the sport of wrestling in Alabama as a whole.
And I was talking to Coach Elijah Oliver, who's the coach over at Birmingham Wrestling Club. And every time I do my show, I always ask, how do you think maybe we should grow the sport of girls wrestling in the state? And a lot of people don't really know the answer because they haven't had a worldly perspective on the issue. Well, of course, Coach Oliver has wrestled at Indiana. He's wrestled in Illinois and Tennessee. And he's
Fargo
been able to – huh?
Fargo champ.
Definitely a Fargo champ. And he had a very worldly view. And he's like, the way you really grow it rapidly is you get a really famous female coach like Kayla Miracle or even Helen Maroulis to come down and bring it in. And the way you kind of show it to, maybe obviously people would think, why would Helen Maroulis or Kayla Miracle or Jenner Burke ever come down to Alabama? And you show it as, hey, you can be the pioneer of something amazing. Like, obviously, we've got Hannah Gladden, and I'm positive she'll definitely come back at some point. But if you were able to get a lot of these senior level athletes to come down and kind of expand girls wrestling rapidly, it would be a game changer for the growth of wrestling in the state.
Yeah, just senior level and just high level athletes coming down and training in general helps. It's just really big for just growing it and really getting people involved. Like last summer, some of the Virginia Tech guys were wrestling around in Alabama. We had Ben Provisor, who recently signed with Grandview AI School up in Kansas. He's been doing camps around Alabama, and just all these big high level athletes coming and training and doing camps in Alabama really does help a lot for exposure for all the athletes in the area.
Now, obviously, I mentioned Coach Oliver. That was a major headline earlier into March, was that Coach James Nicholson, two-time All-American at Old Dominion University, was going to be stepping down, and Elijah Oliver was going to be taking over. Well, that has just brought just nothing but positive things to that club. I was talking to him, I guess that would have been Sunday, and he was like, yeah, we had like 60 kids at our open mat, and he was naming off kids. He was like, we had Jacob Deese, Will Garrett, Camden Tipton, Brody Christmas. And I was talking to him, I'm like, those are kids who probably won't get to see each other. I don't think I'll ever see Brody Christmas and Camden Tipton wrestle in a tournament, really. I don't think Oak Mountain and Warner Jordan go to a lot of tournaments together. So stuff like that, I mean, it only benefits the growth.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. A lot of those big camps have just really given a lot of good opportunities for really good guys to get together. I know I've been to just a handful of been to camps in Pigeon Forge and just all over camps in the South. And there's a lot of just guys whose names you've heard, but you've never actually gotten to wrestle before will be there, and you get to wrestle these really high level guys. And it's just really good for sharing techniques and getting a good feel, and just overall helping everyone get better is just being able to get on the mat against those good guys who you normally wouldn't get on the mat against.
Definitely. Like a big one is upcoming this Saturday, May 8th, is going to be Gable Stevenson is coming to the Vestavia Wrestling Complex. And Elijah's just like, you should come by. I'm like, maybe if I don't have work, but I don't know if I want Gable whooping up on me.
You don't want that heavyweight smoke.
No. I mean, sadly, I got hurt prior to Cassiope. I got hurt like right before Cassiope came in. But according to my other heavyweight buddy, it wouldn't have mattered because Cassiope was unable to wrestle.
No, he wasn't.
But, I mean, it's just insane how much that the state has been able to grow in wrestling in the last couple years. And I think it really helps having social media as a major one, being able to spread stuff so quickly. Like, I don't know. I was talking to a couple of different people, like the Alexandria coach Frank Hartzog, and Rod Gaddy, and Coach TJ Zito over at John Carroll Wrestling. And he was like, oh, yeah, back when we wrestled, we used to have these, like, everybody would meet in this little gym that Coach Gadosh would open, and everybody would come. And I remember Coach Zito was like, I didn't even know about this till like way later. And half the Barry guys went. I just had no idea about it. Because, like they didn't have clubs. So Coach Gadosh would show you, like, one move, and then, like, twice a week you'd go in there and just drill, which is kind of crazy how much it's changed since then.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Well, I mean, he was naming off some guys who made no sense to me because I didn't grow up in the 90s. So I didn't know who – I know who they are now. Like, I know who Coach Stuart Holt helps out over at Skull and Crossbones. So does Coach Steve Knutson. Everybody calls him Coach Santa because he's got this long white beard, looks very jolly. I don't know. I feel like I'd be still kind of scared. He's kind of scary looking. But all those guys would go, the Barry guys, some of the Vestavia guys like Rod and young Gadosh, Coach Jacob Gadosh. And then that'll flow into the next thing. So – obviously, we heard that Coach Gadosh is not going to be returning as the head coach over at Hoover High School.
Yeah.
And they're on the search, actually.
They are.
I have heard some rumors of who it might be. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they brought up assistant coach Hicks, Matt Hicks.
Yeah.
He's a stellar coach. He was at Oxford for quite some time. But what I've heard is the ringer is that Coach Riley Pike, the assistant over at Thompson High School, might take over there.
Yeah. Coach Pike's it's a good coach. That'd be a good hire. But, I mean, Hoover, with the amount of talent that Hoover gets through their youth program, I mean, they have probably one of the bigger youth programs in the state. So they always are going to have those good numbers in their rooms. That's always going to help build up a good program.
Well, I think it also the major benefit that you see is you don't have a lot of guys who, they had Coach Gadosh as their coach, but you don't have that giant group of seniors who had been there since they had 4 state finalists back in 2016, 2017 when those kids were in middle school. You know, that last group of seniors just filed out, and this year it would be a good time to kind of kick it back into gear. The only thing I might have a drawback on is Coach Pike a couple years ago was offered the job over at Pelham and actually accepted the job. And there was a whole banner post that says, "Oh, congratulations to Coach Pike for calling there." And Thompson's like, "Oh, we'll miss him." And then Coach Pike still stayed at Thompson. So obviously Thompson's got a very strong bond, I know, over there with Coach Welton, Coach Barnes, Coach Pike. They're all very tight-knit. Those guys are the funniest group of guys when they're together. I've laughed a couple times with them, but, like, I don't know. I don't laugh a lot with Pike because Pike scares me. I wrestled him once. I didn't wrestle him again. You ever wrestle Pike, Levi?
Maybe. I don't remember, but I probably have.
Well, in my entire time wrestling, I don't think anybody has manhandled me quite like Pike has. He's just super strong. He ankle picked me, and I was like, "What just happened?" He ankle picked me, and just it was the worst thing ever. Because the guy weighs like 210. He's moving pretty quick, and he wrestled over at Limestone, and he came back. One of the coolest things ever about Thompson's coaching staff is outside of Barnes, nobody on that team placed in high school.
No.
Barnes placed fourth, but that was only his senior year. And a big thing for them is that Coach Welton, although he wrestled a Pelham, and although he did not place there, he went on to, he decided he was going to walk on over at UTC. And when he was at UTC, he decided, wrestling here's not for me, but I'm going to get into coaching. So he got to coach under Coach Brands while he was there, and it was insane.
Yeah. I mean, being under that level of coaching, they say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I mean, that seems to be true right there.
And I'm going to veer off from Alabama wrestling here and just think about some of the top schools in the NAI, because a lot of our guys go to the NAI, especially.
Yeah, we produce a lot of NAIA talent. I think that's probably the division that we send most of our college-bound athletes to.
We just had Gage Hudson, All-American, which I don't know how long ago we had an All-American at that level. I know we've had a couple at D2 in J.A. Jones and, it was the kid from Oxford. You remember his name? He was there. He beat Tanner in the finals his senior year. Jordan Simpson.
Oh, yeah, Jordan Simpson.
He's a pretty cool guy. He came into the clinic for us one time, but he was over there, and he was at Newberry. J.A. was at Emmanuel when they both All-American. But I was talking about the NAIA to say that those top schools all have kind of like a thing that really helps them. Obviously, with I cannot think of his last name, but Coach Nick over at Grandview kind of got like a thing going with all the other Iowa schools that are in the area.
Yeah.
So if they're not fitting out over at their team, they send them over to Grandview. So that room is full of Division I athletes that just don't really find their hitch in wrestling at Division I. And then, of course, Coach Omi Acosta over at Life decided, or so he's got a really big connection with Cuba. So he has like Cuban athletes, and I know we've talked about it. Cuba is insane at wrestling. They produce a lot of really good athletes. They produced I cannot remember the heavyweight's name. And was that freestyle or Greco?
Freestyle.
It was freestyle. They had their heavyweight was very good. And when you talk about, have you ever?
I mean, Chamizo's Cuban.
Yeah.
Anthony Ekamandia is Cuban. Like they've produced some pretty recent talent that's still some of the best in the world.
Definitely. So, I mean, and me and Levi were joking around before the broadcast about maybe having some kind of produced thing. So, like, if Alabama Wrestling Forum decides they want to get into producing a tournament of any kind, maybe it could be an all-star match between kids in the state, or even an all-star match between Alabama and Georgia.
Yeah. I mean, I think having those kind of wrestling cards where you invite in a lot of good kids, you not only do you get the entertainment and the spectatorship of it, but it also introduced high-level wrestling to a lot of Alabama kids who may not be used to seeing that high of a level of wrestling. And they get to see that stuff going down right in front of them. And it can be sometimes – it can like – I know it's happened for me where seeing a high-level wrestling has made me be like, I want to achieve that and I want to get better because I see the things that they're doing. And they're doing stuff that's just a step ahead. And having matches like that in the state could be really good just to help like foster a community and grow everyone in the state wanting to kind of build up a bubble of wrestling technique in Alabama that we just don't really have at this current time.
And you've actually trained with some of the athletes that are very well known in Georgia. I don't know how many of our viewership actually know anything about those athletes.
Yeah, I mean, I've trained at Level Up. I've wrestled with RJ Weston, Jackson Smith I wrestled with. He's going up to Maryland this year. He's ranked top 10 in the country. But Georgia right now is producing really, really good talent. And I think that if we can get more of our kids training with more of the kids from our neighbors and Tennessee as well. I mean, Cody Chittum, Tennessee kid, ranked number 1 in the nation. Like, just being able to kind of collaborate with those around us could really help us grow as well, along with these other states that are on the come up. I mean, some people think Georgia is the fastest growing state in high school wrestling right now because they are coming up fast. They are producing a lot of talent that is just, I mean, it's some of the best in the nation coming out of a place that is not really known for wrestling.
And I think we're kind of on that way. I mean, I know that at the Vestavia Wrestling Club currently, they're having Arturo Holmes come every other Wednesday. And I think that if we slowly progress into adding more and more, as long as we get away from the animosity that kind of holds us back, or even some of the rules that maybe not everybody agrees with in club wrestling or anything like that, I think that's the way we go into we having growth in the state. But on to our next topic is Corey Land just made his second world team in a very dominant fashion.
Yeah, Corey dominated his way to another Greco world team. I think that it's great exposure for the state. I mean, Alabama having a world team member is just something uncommon. And I think that especially just the dominant fashion that he was got there with just kind of left a statement that, like, we may not have much, but we can still pack a punch. And I think that's vital for us as a state because, I mean, we're not seeing – people see Alabama in a bracket and it's just yeah, it's over. I mean, I wrestle with kids in Ohio now, and as soon as I tell them I'm from Alabama, their expectations of me just collapse because Alabama's just not known for wrestling. It's just what it is.
Definitely a football state.
Yeah.
I know I talked to Corey recently, and he was talking, although he made a world team, he was bragging a lot about kids like Brody Christmas and Will Anderson, who did fairly well at the tournament. And that he's like, we're getting there. We're slowly becoming better and better every single year. And that's just what it's going to take. It's a long and grueling process for anybody that's in the sport of wrestling. But it gets better, according to Corey.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that Alabama is definitely on an up right now, and I think the entire South is on an up. And I think right now we just need to keep working. That's all. That's the big message. Is everyone just we can't be settled with what we have. We have to work on getting better. We had however many All-Americans at Virginia Beach this year, probably more than we've had many years before. But I mean, we just got to get even more than that next year and the year after that and just keep growing, keep getting better.
So actually yesterday I did my interview with Tanner Moon, and he was telling me that something he was very excited for was the fact that he is going to have a Virginia Beach team go to Virginia Beach in a couple weeks, which is it's the last weekend of May. It's the whatever the 28th is. That weekend.
NHCSA duels.
And I've actually got his Virginia Beach team up right now, so we can look at that. So we've got Wes Miller, Will Miller, some really good Oak Mountain kids, along with Kirk Smitherman, Austin Bird, a couple Hoover kids, and Ian Addison, Liam Harrell. I don't know if you guys remember Liam Harrell, but he had the really big throw against Tyler Tanaka in the South section last year. I remember watching that match. That was absolutely insane. Another Hoover kid in Alex. And then they've got state champ LaDonald Phillips on this team as well.
Yeah, I think having LaDonald Phillips on that team it's really good having a state champ on any team that you're bringing. Just, I mean, it's a lot of young studs on that team, a lot of up-and-comers in the state, and I think going to Virginia Beach could really send a good message and show that Alabama can hold themselves up there with the big boys.
I think it shows a lot to Coach Gadosh's team in Hoover and Coach Burrow's team over at Oak Mountain, that these kids are wanting to go after better competition all the time. I know that, a lot of these kids may not have all those state requisites, but that's not stopping a lot of kids from going. Levi, you went to Virginia Beach your sophomore year, and although you didn't do as well as I know you would love to, you knew that was a great experience for you going into that year.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, personally, I love chasing the competition. I mean, I think that you should always go for whatever the most competition is going to be. And I think that just always looking for someone who's going to beat you up is the only thing that's going to get you better. So as long as you're looking for someone who will inevitably beat the shit out of you, it's going to get you better as a wrestler. And just, you want to have that give and take of, you want to know that you're getting better. And the best way to do that is by wrestling the better kids, and you can see yourself get better against them.
And I know I was talking with Coach Moon, and I know he's been in contact with a couple 182 pounders. But if you're interested, I'm going to leave Coach Moon's stuff in the bio. Definitely reach out if you're a 182 who's interested, because although you might not get it because somebody else will inevitably get the spot maybe before you will, but definitely reach out to him. And then there's the McAdory kid at 195 and 220. And then you've got someone who we haven't seen a lot of because there's been quite a little bit of depth for Wetumpka's heavyweight. But we've seen Willie Cox, who's definitely been – he's been wrestling since he was in diapers. I know I've seen him at tournaments when I was in youth. He's been there forever.
Yeah.
So,
those youth kids are always the hidden gems because they're the ones who have known the technique for so long. They're the ones who really can, they get some good. A lot of them just aren't developed, and once they develop with that technique, a lot of them you see kind of explode onto the scene with some vigor. And I think youth wrestling is really important, and I think it's really good to get kids in that just to help progress so that we have higher competition in general.
how was your first time on the show?
It was good. It was fun. We'll do it again sometime.
You think we're going to do it again?
Yeah.
I think we are, and I think that's the point where I'm going to transition and letting you guys know we're going to do this show every single week, once a week. It'll probably come out Fridays at 8 o'clock in the morning. I don't know. I probably won't be up, but other people will. So you guys enjoy a cup of coffee. Don't have too much fun. And stay cool out there wrestling.